Hey you guys, this is Josh with Homesteading Family, and it is a Friday afternoon, and usually we would be trying to release a pantry chat this afternoon, but just not quite making it today. We've got several people under the weather, including Carolyn. So people are resting, other people are covering for others. Oh, kitties. And I'm filling in for pantry chat. And I'm gonna keep it kind of short and sweet because I've got to get in and help with the cooking in the house and just kind of make it an easy evening. And we were gonna be talking about preservation methods today, but that was Carolyn's expertise mostly, and obviously she's not here. And so I thought I'd share a little bit about living prepared. Some things have happened this week that have caused probably us to think about that a little bit more. And while we're usually focusing on food around here at Homesteading Family, as far as speaking to you guys and talking about growing your own food, preserving it, cooking it, healthy living, we sure aim to live a prepared life in many, many ways. We don't hold really to a what they call beans, bullets, and Band-Aids prepping approach, which is just to stock up and wait for something to happen. There's certainly some good elements to that, but we believe it is important to live prepared, especially in these times when so many of our grid systems are fragile. Now, let me ask you a question. If you got a message from somebody that said, hey, they're turning the power off to our region. We're going to be without power for 5 to 7 days. I just went to the bank to try to get some cash so we'd have some cash on hand, and the ATMs were down. Can't find any generators, and we're watching food go off the shelves and water go off the shelves at the store. Where would you think that was? You know, most of us would relate that to either a third world country or maybe an emerging economy, and we certainly wouldn't really be thinking about that happening in America unless maybe there was a hurricane or an earthquake. But yet that just happened for over 1 million people in California. For those of you that are following the news, we know a couple people that experienced this directly, and it's a good reminder of the fragility of our systems. In California, it happens to be an electrical grid system that is old and aging and has fire risks, and they're shutting it off due to high winds and fire risks because of fires that were started last year. The thing that's important to note is that it's an aging electrical system. Our electrical grid in this country in many, many places is worn down, is old, hasn't been kept up and replaced, and it's just one of the systems that can fail us. And it's a good time right now to be thinking about living prepared and having systems in place for being prepared for events that throw us from out of our normal day to day. And there's just some basics to that. I'm not going to cover everything today, and some of you diehard preppers out there are probably going to call me to task and bring up all kinds of things that I don't. This isn't a talk on being prepared for every last event that could happen in a nuclear war and EMTs and all that. Those are all good things to think about, but we just try to develop systems and live prepared for whatever may happen, whether it's a grid down system, whether it's a financial failure, whether it's a food production failure. There's all kinds of things that we could experience. Our systems are a lot more fragile than we think. And there's a lot of things that could happen besides, you know, catastrophic nuclear type or war type situations. So there's some basic tenets to living prepared that no matter where you're at, whether you're on 40 acres like us out in the woods in northern Idaho, or whether you're in the city in a dense area, there are some basics to living prepared and being prepared for situations that might happen, like power outages for you don't know how long, and an inability to get cash or resources to help you through that time. You need to be ready for it now. So I just thought I'd cover a few basics that a lot of this is common sense. A lot of it you're probably familiar with, but maybe it's a good reminder right now to be watching what's happened in California, to just be taking a few extra steps to getting prepared. So, number one, in any kind of crisis situation, you need shelter. I'm going to assume if you're watching this, you probably have shelter of some sort and are relatively protected from the elements. Next is water. And here is where, right off the bat, a lot of people don't realize how fragile their water system is. We're very fortunate in that we live in a region with a lot of water. We chose to live in a place where we have natural water on the property. We have storage in multiple different ways. We realize a lot of people don't have that, and so you've got to prepare a little bit, because if the electricity goes down, your water systems can and will likely go down, and you're not going to have water at the tap, so you need to have water storage. There's lots of different strategies. You need to research some of those, everywhere from bottled water to large barrel stored water to water collection systems on your own property collecting rainwater. All of those are viable. You need to look at your situation, how many people you have in your household, and figure out a plan for having water on hand. And not just for the 3 days that a lot of experts recommend, or even a week, a month at least. You want to have a long-term plan for water, for having a backup water supply, and for rationing that water supply to make it last as long as you can. Next, I would be focusing on food. You need to have food storage. You've got your shelter, you've got water, you need to have food, and not just MRE type dried food. You want as high quality food that you can get. And one of the reasons we're going to encourage you to either grow your own food and preserve it, or buy high quality food and preserve it, fruits, vegetables, grains if you can. Most of us got to buy our grains. But stock up on all of those goods and have a good food supply, not just a few days worth, not just a week's worth, really not just a month's worth. You've got a lot of other things to be stressed about if the power goes out for a week or longer, or other situations occur. You don't want to be stressing about water and food other than just basic rationing principles to get you through an unknown period. But have good food supplies and a diversity of food: grains, fruits, vegetables, meats if possible. That's why it's great to can meats and not just freeze them. With that, and possibly above that, would be a heat source. If you live where we live, you need heat. Some of you in the South, that may not be your main concern, other than heating your foods or heating your water. Maybe you have a way, like we have ponds. That's one of our storage systems. We have other ones for potable water, but if we had to rely on our ponds, we would then need to boil that water. So you need to have a backup heat system for your house and for cooking food. That can come in a lot of ways, from simple propane burners to butane camp-style burners, all the way up to a larger, we have a camp chef that we can on, that we use for camping, and it's a great backup with a couple propane tanks that can cook food for us. Now, we also have wood heat inside, and are just in the process of hooking up a wood-burning cook stove. For a lot of you, that's a very appropriate strategy. If you can't do that, at least have some sort of backup to cook with, and some sort of backup heat source to heat your home with, or at least a room with. Some way to stay warm if you're in an environment where you need to stay warm if it's cold. And of course, a lot of the country is going into winter. Winter is hitting us here early. So you need to make sure you are stocked up on your fuel sources, whether that be wood, gasoline, diesel, propane, butane. Check your sources and have good backups. Again, not enough to get you through a week, but enough to get you through a month, 2 months. We try to have 6 months in a lot of our systems, and even longer in our food systems. But work with what you have and do the best you can. talking about heat kind of blends right into power. And yes, power's down there on the list. It is not an essential. It's very helpful, but you need water, you need food, you need to stay warm, you need to be able to heat your food or boil your water. And so those are going to have a higher priority. But power can also be your heat source. I know a lot of you live in places where it's all electric. Your stove is electric. Your heating system is electric. Your water heating is electric. I really want to encourage you, if you're in that situation, to start diversifying your systems. But if you are in that situation, then you've really got to have backup generators. You've got to have a backup source to power that electricity. One of the best ways is an inline generator that is just tied to your home. When the power goes out, it comes on and it is hooked up to a large storage fuel tank like propane. If you're in a city environment, you may not be able to do that because of codes, other things, or that's a large expense. So the other alternative is to have smaller backup generators. We've used those for years. We have a variety of generators of different sizes that we can power different areas on the property, keeping all our freezers going. And we have a generator that will plug into the house and run certain sections of the house, and it will keep the heater going. So you could work with an electrician to get a generator, size it to run the essentials in your house for you, and have a backup plan for fuel. Really, really critical, especially for those of you that are on electric only. You need that power backup. That's also going to help you stay more comfortable, keep the lights on, get things done. And you also need a plan to work with that, because you can't just have it on. If you've got to go off grid, you can't just fire the generator on, or you shouldn't. I guess you could, but you're going to waste fuel if you just run it all day long. So you've got to have a plan for getting tasks done that need electricity, heating the house for a while, and then shutting it down for a while so that you can make your fuel last as long as possible. Okay, so we've got water. We've got food, we've got a heat source, we've got power. We're thinking about long-term strategies of storage and administering those resources over time. Okay, you're starting to set yourself up pretty well. Of course, I know some of you are thinking, what about solar? And yes, absolutely, solar is great. Solar is expensive. A lot of people don't just have large solar systems, but what you can do is buy mini systems and mini charging systems. Goal Zero is a company that has fantastic little chargers that can charge AA batteries. Those AA batteries can power lights. And thinking about power and lighting, a lot of people are gonna, and some of you are probably gonna comment here about, what about candles and lamps? Those are both great. We have all of those, but in that interim, we don't want those to be our first go-to. There are a lot of problems. There's fire hazards, there's air quality hazards, and we have better technology today, and a lot of that is LED portable lighting. And so a good battery backup, AA's, rechargeable, a stash of those is great. And you can power all kinds of headlamps, flashlights, small lanterns with LED lights that will last you a very long time. And those can be charged on a small portable solar panel. So that's another good part of your backup system, especially if you aren't in a position to set up larger electrical backup systems. If you've got your food, your water, you've got heat, that will provide you with light and other minimal sources of electricity. All right? You need some basic medical supplies and knowledge. You don't know how long you're going to go. If you're in a crisis situation, you don't know how long it's going to be for help to get to you. So you and your family should have basic medical supplies to take care of wounds, illnesses, emergencies, and some skills to be able to administer those. At least somebody in your family, better if several people in your family are trained. And next, some alternative communication sources. Your phone may or may not work when the power goes out. A lot of those systems have backup power too, and so while locally your power could go out, you may still be able to get on your phone and watch this video. You may not. You may be able to text your family and friends down the road. You may not. Do not be dependent on your mobile devices. Make sure that you have some other alternative communication devices. Walkie-talkies are very helpful, multi-channels, and also a backup radio that's a hand crank radio that you can get essential information and keep up with what's going on to the best of your ability. So guys, those are my top 6. That if you are working on those strategies, shelter, water, food, I guess it's 7, heat, power, medical supplies, and alternative communication sources, you are going to fare way better than the average person. It doesn't matter where you live, you need to do these things at some sort of level. There's all kinds of information online. This talk isn't meant to try to give you all the details. You've got to look at the resources you have. You've got to look at the needs that you have and figure out systems that you can put in place to help you get through these times. And you know what? Even as I'm speaking of this, I am thinking of one more that's so easy to overlook. I'm sitting here taking it for granted, even though I've been thinking about this all day, and I mentioned it earlier in that scenario, and that is cash. You want to have some cash on hand. The bank may not be there for you. You don't want to be hearing that the power is going to go out, or the power goes out. You go, oh my gosh, I need a generator. I'm going to run to the store and get a generator and some bottled water and some food, but I got to stop by and get cash, and you can't get it because they're down too. We're all dependent on that card, so keep a fair amount of cash on hand in a safe place to help you get through that type of situation. Better yet, don't wait until something happens. Start figuring out water storage, food storage, alternative heat sources, alternative power sources, medical supplies, alternative communication devices. If you follow those basics, you can get through a lot of situations quite comfortably. Over time, you build those systems and you can be more and more comfortable and get into a position, instead of being a burden and having needs in an environment around you that has problems, you can then not only be more comfortable yourself, but you can be a solution to others in needs and be a help to others. So there's some of our topics. These are things that we talk about regularly, that we try to make sure that we are maintaining, keeping up on, improving on a regular basis to live a life that is prepared. I hope that is a good reminder for you guys, maybe a little bit of new information, probably not, but at least a check-in and a good reminder to live prepared. I hope you guys have a great weekend and a great week. Look for a video, Lord willing, next week on putting your garden to rest and maintaining these no-till beds that I've been using. And we will try to catch up with you soon. Get Carolyn back in here for the next pantry chat. Have a good one. See you soon.